Good afternoon and Happy New Year. Greetings, friends, family, supportive strangers, innocent passersby. I am happy for anyone who can join me today. I do appreciate you all. If you're catching this in a replay, I'm happy you were able to catch the replay. Come on in and let's join the conversation. So I actually thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about oh, well, my page just went what froze. I had some documents up I was going to refer to because I did a little research today on New Year's resolutions. So I thought it would be fun to talk about the history and purpose of making a New Year's resolution and why I usually don't do it, and reasons I may consider doing it differently than the way I think most people do. Oh, hey, my page. Oh, my page came back up. Good. So, um, hi, Bloom. I thought today I would do things a little differently. Instead of starting with too much general chit chat and the catching up, we would start with just a little bit of the history of the New Year's resolution, and then we can have our conversation. So, if my page will stop doing that. Okay, so what is a New Year's resolution? Well, I think our American version in particular, and perhaps the Western idea in general, is basically we think of something we want to do or we'd like to change in the coming year, and I think a lot of people just sort of drop the ball. The statistics show that most people have forgotten or stopped doing whatever their chosen activity for the year is within 3 to 6 weeks. Don't remember the exact range, but that is the best of my recollection. Anyway, the bottom line is most people don't stick with it, which we will come back to. But historically, New Year's resolutions actually have been traced by historians back to ancient Babylon, if you can believe that. It's not just a goal. It's a it's a resolve. It is a determination. And I think that's the thing is most people do treat it like it's a goal. Resolution doesn't mean goal. Resolution means I am resigned that this thing will happen. And so we all have our own way of defining and doing that. But if we treat it like a goal, then it is easy to just let it go by the wayside, right? My goal this year is to read more books. Okay, I may or may not. If I don't do it, it's not that big of a deal. But a resolve, a resolution, being resigned is more intense, it's more sacred than just a goal. It's a it's like a sacred promise to ourselves. Like, I have been absolutely horrible to this person, but I am determined that I'm going to be kinder to them. That's a resolution. I resolutions are not always, but can be life affirming, life changing, absolutes. Uh, there I go with absolutes. Mm. But they can be life changing, life affirming, solid determinations, as opposed to just, oh, well, my goal this year is to read more books. That's great. That's a wonderful goal. My goal is to get out and exercise more. Also, a wonderful goal. And I'm going to turn my heater off. But that's different than a resolution. A resolution is more personally impactful. Now, that's just my interpretation. And everyone is free to approach it the way they choose. It is hard to keep a resolution. And that's what makes it much more sacred. It's like keeping a wedding vow. It's something that may not be easy to do, but you're determined that you are going to do it, which is very different from, well, this is a goal and I hope I do it. We give up on goals. We shouldn't give up on a resolution. A resolution is you've got that strong mindset that this thing is real, not some abstract, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Just my personal opinion. But in that regard, it does make them harder. Because it's, one, hard to have that mindset in the first place. And two, life happens. Life gets in the way of things. A resolution also, I guess, from my personal experience, I don't think a resolution needs to be set at the start of the new year. You can make a resolution anytime you want. So for me, I finished high school early. I was out of high school at the Christmas break when my friends were continuing through till graduation in June. I didn't walk in graduation. I didn't participate in the end of year senior activities. And I kind of missed that. But at the same time, my friends were still in high school and I was on to college in February of the year I graduated. But I got sick before I could finish. I was on the trajectory to be done with the program I was in within a year. Because I was in school 8 full hours a day, not a class here and a class there like a traditional university. I was 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. So I had Saturday classes, but it was all day, like a job. Not a 2-hour class here and a couple of hours in my next lecture for an hour. It was an intense program. And I got really, really sick. In fact, I almost died. And I ended up being hospitalized. having major abdominal surgery, and it forced me to take time away from school. So that was in, excuse me, I have a call coming in and I'm going to tell them I will call them back. There we go. So I healed. I tried to go back to school. Some other life circumstances were happening about that time as well. And so I actually ended up taking a whole year off of school. So I think my surgery was in, so the January after I started school. I started in February. I was supposed to be done in less than a year. I had um, a couple of things happen during that year that derailed me a little bit. Then the following January, I was really sick, hospitalized, had major surgery. So I recovered from that. The following January, I was sick and almost died again from something different. This time, it was my appendix. And it was awful. So here I am, back to back, 2 years in a row, hospitalized, surgery. My whole life was derailed at that point. I had gotten married, I was living with in-laws against my better judgment. My husband at the time had convinced me that we could save money, and it turned into a whole other thing we can talk about another time. So I'm undergoing my second surgery. So I believe maybe it was March or April, after I'd had some recovery time. I did go back to school. But going back to school was definitely a resolution. I set out to do this. I've been derailed. I need to get this done. I don't care what it takes. I have to do this. I went to school, day classes and night classes. I was in school, I don't know, I think 12 hours a day, like 8:30 in the morning till like 9 o'clock at night, because I was doing the day program, the night program, any extra um, any extra hours I could get in or an extra class I could squeeze in, I was doing it. I wanted to get done. And I did. I did, but that's what makes that a resolution as opposed to just a goal. Because it wasn't a maybe I will, maybe I won't. If I don't, it's no big deal. It was, this is happening no matter what I have to do. And I'm glad I'm still here too, because in 2024, I was back in the hospital having life-saving surgery again. Of course, there were quite a few years since the last time, so that's a good thing. Yes, never giving up. That's the point of a resolution. And I'm proud of me too, because I could have given up. I could have said, this is too hard. I've had too many obstacles. This happened and that happened, and maybe this isn't meant to be. Well, I stuck to it and made it happen. And I am so glad I did. Looking back, I don't think I would have forgiven myself if I'd given up. but I got my education. Oh, I could have died. Absolutely. And that's a topic for another conversation as well. Why I'm absolutely in favor of combining conventional medicine with alternative medicine. Modern doctors have saved my life more than once. I I will never suggest that somebody shouldn't go to a doctor or that they should deny medical treatment if they want that medical treatment. So, to me, that's the difference between a goal and a resolution. So, the history here is kind of, fun for me anyway. So, I'm going to be reading this from a page. If it will let me, it won't load. Okay, awesome. Awesome. My screen's frozen again. It's a really old computer. Anyway, this one is, I want to make sure I quote it right, but I think I pulled up two different resources and it's stuck. One was from NPR, and the other one was not the History Channel, but a historical society. But it's going to make me restart this computer. So I will just read what I have, what I can see right now. And I really want to be able to sort this. Wow. Wow. I want to be able to cite my source. So I won't read it word for word. But anyway, it says that New Year's resolutions have been traced back to over 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years BC. The ancient Babylonians are the first on record for having celebrations in honor of the new year. And so during a massive 12-day religious festival known as Akitu, and any historians who might know how to actually say that, please let me know if I said it wrong. The Babylonians crowned their new king or reaffirmed their allegiance to and loyalty to their reigning king. So it was a time when they would have a change of leadership as well as celebrating, the yearly cycle. So during this time, they would make promises to the gods. They would make promises to pay off their debts and or would pay off their debts at this time. They would return things that were borrowed. And so that's actually the earliest record we can find tracing back what the origins of what we think of as our New Year's resolutions. So I read something else, and that might have been again. My page is stuck, so I can't cite my source. So I will paraphrase in my own words. But the term New Year's resolution is actually a relatively new term. What I read was that it dated back to a newspaper article in Boston, and I believe the year was 1813. was one of the earliest, probably not the only time it was used, but it was, it did become popularized about that time. So the early 1800s. And I do think that a lot of people treat a New Year's resolution like a goal, a something to aspire to, and that's fine. If you want to have a New Year goal, great. I make goals all the time. I think goals are awesome. They're important. But I also, for myself, think it's important to make that distinction between a goal and a resolution. And knowing what I know about how people abandon their resolutions so early after making them, they're not resolved. It is, in fact, just a goal. And if we want to set goals for the year, I'm all for it. I would just maybe rather call it a goal. My goal this year is to finally take that trip I've been putting off. My goal this year is to finally read the entire works of Shakespeare or the Epic of Gilgamesh or whatever it is. My goal this year is to lose 30 pounds. Great. Fantastic goal. And setting goals short term can be just as powerful as setting goals for long term. Setting a goal for the month is a great way to keep your expectations reasonable. Okay, this month I'd like to read 3 books. This month I would like to start taking such and such class. This month I would like to eat fewer snacks. I mean, whatever it is. Whatever it is. I think keeping those goals short term and reasonable is a fantastic idea. And actually, when people do that, they're more likely to reach their goals in the short term. But long term, some things do require more long term, like getting an education. I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. Getting that master's degree, that's hard. That takes resolve. A lot more so than reading one more book a month or choosing a different snack. So I think, especially in America, we get confused. We misuse our words a lot in our country and our culture in general. We do. We misuse our words so often. And we even use words that have a completely different definition from what we're trying to say. And it happens. I mean, it happens. Language is fluid. It's fine to a point, but it also can make the difference in how we approach our mindset. Because a goal and a resolution require very different mental energy from each other. So That is why I rarely make a New Year resolution, because if I'm going to resolve myself to do something, I'm going to do it when it matters more than a traditional day that, okay, this is the day I'm supposed to set a goal for the next 12 months. I just don't, I mean, I set goals all the time. I don't put myself on a schedule for it. I resolve myself to things all the time. I don't put myself on a schedule for it. When my mom was sick, and you all saw how hard that was for me in those videos, I was resolved to continue working and maintaining both households and my relationship and doing little things for myself. That wasn't just, oh, I might do it, I might not. If I don't make it, oh well. Thank you. Thank you. I did take good care of my mom. And I did still show up and do my job. And it was hard. Nobody's trying to say it was easy, but again, that's the difference between resolution and goal. I mean, yes, goals can be hard, but if you're resolved, then it becomes more than a goal. And resolve doesn't have to be a goal. It can just be, I'm determined to get through this no matter what. So I don't like the way we trivialize the idea. We call it a resolution, but we blow it off. So therefore, and this is again a personal thing. If you make New Year's resolutions and that works for you, great. Live your best life, do what works. If you're determined to reach that goal, well, I mean, I think it depends on the goal too. Um, getting a master's degree is hard, which is partly why I say it takes more resolve than just meeting a goal or a milestone. Climbing a mountain and training for that is hard. Getting through law school while raising 2 kids is hard. And again, which is why it takes resolve to reach that goal. So that is I would say, even if you're determined, some things are still just hard. But when you're done, or when you've reached that goal and you can look back at how hard it was and know that you did it, that is so gratifying. That is life affirming. And so I just like to take a more reverent approach and distinguish the difference for me. Yeah, absolutely. When you accomplish your goal, we all should pat ourselves on the back, because some of these things just simply are just not easy. And we all have our own life and our own path and our own struggles. And we all have challenges that and hurdles that come up to get in the way of reaching our goals. And that's where that determination comes in. And sometimes it's just hard, and it's wise to know when to take a step back and give it a rest. I could have continued going to school even though I was super, super sick. I my body told me otherwise, and I'm better off for it. So we all have to, we all just have to find what works for ourselves in our lives, and nobody should tell you. And I also think that, what, if you make a resolution, whether you're calling it a goal or a resolution, or whatever your mindset is, I also very strongly believe that everybody has the right to change their mind. This might be important to me on January 1st, but by March 2nd, something else has taken priority. That happens in life too, and that is okay. And nobody should judge or berate you for not meeting those personal goals, because it's not their life, it's yours. So, taking care of yourself first is important, but that's another way I feel like we misuse our words. Um, because taking care of yourself first does not mean taking care of yourself only. Self care is absolutely crucial to our well being. However, there are people that take that too far and go to an extreme. And they will be about, oh, well, I'm putting me first, and completely ignoring the needs of other people and the well being of those around them, and move into a place of selfishness instead of self care. And it can be a fine line. I won't argue that. It absolutely can be, uh, a little gray area there. If I make it a priority to go get my reflexology treatment once a month, in my case, that's not just a luxury. It keeps me walking. And if I don't go for 6 months, my feet know it. And walking does become harder because of the severe plantar fasciitis. I have to stretch and get treatments. And if I go a long period of time without those things, it absolutely can impact whether or not I can climb the stairs or even get to the bathroom. I ended up, this is how I got my diagnosis. I ended up in the emergency room because I was in a lot of pain. I was toughing it out. I didn't know what was causing it. I thought I might have torn, I thought I might have torn or broken something in my foot. And I went in, um, and I didn't understand the fasciitis. Yes, I do, severe. And it would hurt. I'd get up, I'd hobble to the bathroom. after I'd be up a little while and wiggle my foot around and stretch, and the pain would typically ease up. Well, one morning I got out of bed. I literally couldn't even stand. It was excruciating. So I went to the emergency room. They did all the x-rays, all the poking and prodding and wiggling of my foot, and determined that it was the plantar fasciitis. And she recommended the doctor I saw recommended um, a combination of stretching, massage, um, um, shoe inserts, and a whole, just like this whole little regimen, which helped. But what got me back to walking and even being able to wear um, dressy shoes, sometimes, not all day, every day like I used to, but sometimes, um, was a combination of yoga and reflexology regularly. As I said, if I don't do those things, I know it. Walking gets hard. It is painful. So doing those things is self-care. Now, if I didn't have that condition and insisted on doing those things, to the tune of $200 or $300 a month, while I can't contribute to, I'm doing that instead of um, paying my kids' school fees. That would be selfish. So the difference between selfishness and self-care comes in how we're treating other people while we're doing those things. It is absolutely fine and self-care to take care of oneself, to go get that massage, to eat that special snack once in a while, to treat yourself to a lay in bed and watch movies day. But when you're putting yourself as the only priority at the expense of others, that's very different. If you have kids at home that you are not cooking meals for, but you are getting your own special snacks every day, that's selfish. Getting a massage twice a month and forgetting to go to your kids' music recital, that's selfish. There is a big difference. And I think a lot of people can get that confused. It's just like the difference between boundaries and control. Boundaries are not things we impose on other people. Boundaries are limitations we put on what we ourselves will accept. So if, let's say, I and my partner, we live together. I don't know. I hypothetically, this is not the case in my situation, but hypothetically, if My partner drinks a lot and comes home and wants to be affectionate. Me saying, it's fine if you drink, but do not come home and get cuddly with me, that's a boundary. I'm not going to be affectionate and cuddly with you when you are drunk. That's a boundary. That is a limitation. I am not willing to accept those advances that make me uncomfortable just because you choose to be drunk. Now, control would be, you're drunk. I don't want you to go out and get drunk. Don't come home because you can't be drunk. Or another one men like to do on us is, if you wear that, I'm not going out with you. Or if you wear that, I'm going to berate you. That's control. That is not a boundary. A boundary affects me. So I choose not to be around drunk people. But me telling you what you can do or what you can wear and making it about you, that's control. That is very different from having a boundary on myself. Now, the same thing with self-care. We can put our partners first sometimes, and we absolutely should, and our children and our pets. And that's where self-care comes in, because if we do that and exclude ourselves and we forget to take care of our own well-being, that's not healthy either. So self-care is still engaging, meeting our responsibilities, doing what we need to be doing in the everyday, meeting our obligations and responsibilities. Selfishness is neglecting others in the pursuit of our own wishes and luxuries. So it can be hard to recognize, especially in a relationship dynamic, right? I've been with my partner for 30 years. Does he come home drunk? No, he doesn't drink. And if he did, I would definitely lock him out of my bedroom because I'm just not going to be around it. I do not like being around drunk people. If I go to a party or a gathering and too many people are getting drunk, I'm not telling them not to drink. I'm not telling them not to get drunk. Allergies. I'm not telling them not to drink or not to get drunk. I'm removing myself from the situation because I don't want to be around it. That's my boundary. And if you try to force it on me, that is a breach of my boundary. So that is why I think language can be so important, because it doesn't just describe, we're not just describing an action or an event, we're also describing our intention. and our mindset. And I think that is, that is so, so important. It's not splitting hairs. It's not being pedantic. It is not being too, I'm not even sure what the word I'm looking for is, and I don't want to use the wrong one. So, but it's not those things. It is clarity and defining what we really mean. Because we often, every day, most of us say things in a way that communicates something completely different from what we mean to say. And then people get their feelings hurt, or people get mad, or they misunderstand and take an action completely different from what we were trying to suggest, just because of the words we choose. So that's my soapbox about our use of language. But, as far as goals and resolutions and self care, just live your best life. Do what you need to do. Just don't be hurtful and neglect the people that are important to you in the process. Uh, that's just my advice, not a judgment, not a command, just my advice. To maintain our relationships, we have to take care of ourselves and be present for our partners. And I agree with you, Bloom. Self-care, as opposed to selfishness, self-care is very important. We have to look out for our own mental health. We have to take care of our own physical health. Yeah, taking care of people through through your meal kitchen is great, because you're not harming yourself or neglecting yourself in the process. And sometimes when we do things for others, that also can be a form of self-care, because you are looking out for your own humanity and your own compassion. And people forget about that too. I watched a video this morning about the angel trees, and people who, the families that apply to have their children uh, put on, have their names and Christmas wishes put on the tree, where you go, you pick up the, you choose an angel off the tree and you read what their Christmas wish is, and you buy that gift for them. So I was watching some videos about that this morning. One video, and she actually commented on some clips from other videos, but there was a big controversy over this whole idea, because some people were a little bit resentful that kids would ask for really expensive things on those trees. But here's the thing. Those families are so poor and in such financial stress that the gifts that they put on that tree are not, that their requests are not supplementary. That's not, they're getting this in addition to the 5 other things their parents are giving them, or the, the 10 gifts their parents are giving them and the 15 that they're going to get from grandparents and aunts and uncles. For a lot of those families, that one expensive item is literally the only thing that child is going to have. And who cares what their parents' situation is? They have to go through a rigorous process to qualify to put their kids' wishes on the angel tree. These people have no money. The only reason their kids are getting Christmas or Christmas gifts is because of the charity and because of the kindness of the person who chooses that child from the tree. And so there were a couple of people that put out videos about why am I buying this $30 item for this kid? Or why am I buying this kid 5 things? And then turning around and bragging about the $200 item they're giving their own child, in addition to what they'll get from their grandparents and aunts and uncles and whomever else. So I'm not even sure what got me on this, but it's I guess people get negative. And there's even people who get negative towards other people who do charitable actions. Why are you giving them money? They're just going to blow it on whatever. Why are you putting your own money into the meal kitchen? Gee, maybe because I have the money and other people need to eat. And it's just a good thing to do. It blows me away how selfish people can be and how harsh they can be. Yes, exactly, from our hearts. And that matters. And that is why doing charitable things is also a form of self-care, because it preserves our humanity. It preserves our compassion and our ability to see other human beings as human beings and not dehumanize them just because they're in a bad situation. Hungry people are hungry people. And it's like SNAP benefits. Well, they shouldn't be spending their SNAP benefits on potato chips and candy and ice cream. Okay, they shouldn't be spending all of their benefits on those things because they need actual nutrition. But I'm sorry, poor people deserve a treat once in a while too. They're poor, not evil. Everyone deserves to eat. Everyone deserves a treat. And especially when you're poor, life is harder. Life is objectively more difficult when you are poor. Do poor people not deserve any respite? You're poor, so you should work harder than everybody else. You're poor. You got sick and couldn't work, so you had to file bankruptcy and now you're poor. So you don't deserve ice cream. Really? That just baffles me how people can think like that. And a lot of us have been there. I've never been homeless, but I have been poor. I've also been wealthy. And now I am neither. I am firmly middle class. However, after my layoff last June, or July, I was fortunate to get a good severance package and to have had savings and a partner and resources. Most people are one or two paychecks away from absolute devastation. They're one crisis away from losing everything. That is just a reality in this country. And to not have compassion for that just baffles me. And you can say, well, they should have planned better. They should have saved more. They should have done this. They should live within their means. They should blah, 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 blah. Reality is there are people who did save, did live within their means, did invest, did all the right things, and tragedy happens and they lose it all. And that can happen to any of us. And there are people who, bless them, who have been so wealthy and so privileged their entire lives that they are disconnected from that reality. Some people simply do not understand the sacrifices that people make on a daily basis. So I know that when you have money and everything is paid for and you don't have to choose between paying the car insurance so that you can keep your car, so that you can go to work, so that you can pay the rent, and so that you can pay for the car insurance and keep your car and go to work and buy the groceries and pay the rent. Choosing that and choosing to pay the electric bill because there's only so much money. And there's people, well, just pay the bill. With what? I have $100 and I have $300 worth of bills to pay. What do I pay? Now, you and I and many people we know have been there. We know how hard that is. Well, I'll pay this one this time and I'll pay a little bit less so that I can say I'll pay $10 less on the electric bill so that I can buy $10 worth of groceries. And then next week when I get paid, I'll pay the car insurance and then try to save $10 for groceries. I mean, some of us really do know how hard that is. There are people that are so disconnected that they have never been in that situation. And some of those people are incredibly generous because they realize that they realize the great position that they're in, and others don't care. Or they try to care, but they're misguided. Again, why don't you pay the bill? Why didn't you just get a better job? Why didn't you get a better education so you could get a better job? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why don't you XYZ? With a lot of judgment attached. And it's, to me, I think it's not only unfair, it's cruel. And I have a visitor. Would you like to come join the conversation on the camera?
No. I'd have to take my clothes off.
Did you hear that?
If you're going to do porn, you got to be undressed. That's the rule.
We're not doing porn. We're doing a
right.
YouTube live. And everything you say is being recorded. So
Really?
just
Who are you
know.
talking to?
The whole world.
The whole world?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I will take my clothes off.
Ha
I'll
ha.
have them beating the door down.
Ha ha. I'll be done here shortly.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, my beloved thought he would come in and make some jokes. He thinks he's funny. Well, he can be. Anyway, my point is, again, back to taking care of others and doing kind deeds and charitable works can also be a form of self-care because it preserves the things about us that keep us human instead of becoming monsters. That's my take. So what do you think? I think doing your free meals from the heart, even when you have to put in some of your own money, if you can afford to do so, that is such a blessing for all the people that you're serving and for yourself. So we've been going for a whole hour now. Wow, I didn't intend to be on here for a whole hour. I was going to do half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, but here we are. We're at an hour. So I am going to go ahead and close it up because I have people needing my attention and I should go give them some. So I have phone calls to return, and my beloved obviously had something he wanted to say to me. So I'm going to go find out what it is. And I want to thank you very, very, very much for joining me. I appreciate all of the support and kindness. And so I just want to, close by saying what I always do. Stay authentic, stay blessed, and stay connected. It matters so much more than you know. Be well. I will see you the next time.